Hello everyone.
Our paper is on affect recognition using psychophysiological correlates in high-intensity VR exergaming. Optimal play experience is desirable because it leads to increased motivation, which results in better exercise adherence. The optimal play experience should be engaging enough to keep the player interested without being overly exerting. Therefore, it is very important to detect the player experience, which is reflected by their affective state, to adapt the game accordingly to achieve optimal player experience. According to the American College of Sports Medicine, adults need at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise or 75 minutes of high intensity exercise per week. However, 40 to 65% of people who enroll themselves for physical activity regimes typically quit within the first 3 to 6 months and don't meet the exercise requirements. Lack of time and motivation are the most commonly cited barriers to exercise adherence. High-intensity VR exergames require only half the time commitment requirement of moderate intensity exercise protocols. They only require 75 minutes of time commitment per week, and they improve motivation to exercise. Studies generally rely on tedious, self-reported, user experience questionnaires given at the end of the experiment to detect player experience. This could be useful to get an overall feedback, but they lack the capacity to give genuine and unadulterated reactions to different events in the game. Furthermore, they are redundant feedback in a sense, as they cannot be used to dynamically adapt the VRX game during the session. Experience sampling involves collecting information as it is directly perceived in a particular moment by inquiring the player. Although it provides instantaneous feedback, it could potentially disrupt the fragile gameplay experience. This is because cognitive effort is necessary to express emotional experience. The recognition of facial expressions is difficult because the player's face is partly covered by the VR headset, and it is affected by excessive panting as a result of exercising. Affectively adaptive video games have been extensively studied, and they use various neuropsychophysiological measurements such as heart rate variability, facial electromyography, and skin conductivity to recognize affect. Using these sensors in the context of playing an exergame imposes many challenges because they can be very sensitive to extensive movement and perspiration. This is because variations in psychophysiological parameters might not be an autonomic response but due to the physical activity performed. Therefore, it's important to identify sensors that are compatible with high-intensity VR exergaming. Another problem associated with affect recognition using psychophysiological correlates such as skin conductivity is that they can only indicate the intensity of the emotional states and not its valence. We present two experiments that investigate the use of different sensors for affect recognition in a high-intensity VR exergame. Our first research question is, how do affective responses differ between sedentary gaming, exergaming, conventional exercise, and rest? Our second research question is, which psychophysiological sensors are the most suited for determining affect in high-intensity VR exergaming? Our third research question is, what are the psychophysiological correlates of positive and negative affect in high-intensity VR exergaming? The first experiment compares the impact of physical exertion and gamification on psychophysiological measurements during rest, conventional exercise, VR exergaming, and sedentary VR gaming using a within participants design. We recorded skin conductance and blink rate during each of the 4 conditions. I'd like to show you a video of the conditions.
The VR exergaming and conventional exercise conditions followed a high-intensity protocol in which they alternate between low-intensity phases and high-intensity sprints. The sedentary VR game is identical to the VR exergame condition, with the only difference being that it is controlled by a hand pedal attached to the handlebar of the bike. For the conditions rest and conventional exercise, We used a VR environment in which the background is the average color of the VR gaming environments to prevent confounding factors.
We screened the participants using the Physical Activity Readiness Questionnaire and excluded participants with health risks. We used the IMI Interest or Enjoyment subscale of the Intrinsic Motivation Inventory Questionnaire. The results of our first experiment show that the skin conductivity and blink rate are suitable to use in the context of high-intensity VR exergaming. The second experiment compares the affective responses to underwhelming, overwhelming, and optimal VR exergaming scenarios using a within participants design. The underwhelming scenario is designed to evoke boredom by using unappealing aesthetics and lack of gamification elements like points and competitor. The optimal condition has a high-tempo music track and optimally challenging gamification elements. The overwhelming condition has annoying sound effects like loud honking, blaring sirens, and frustratingly challenging gamification elements. We record skin conductivity, pupil dilation, blink rate, gaze fixations, and performance. We used experience sampling to collect ground truth values about the player's affective state by seamlessly integrating it into the exergame. Players are asked to choose a number from the affective scale ranging from -2 to +2 by using their hand pedal based on their current affective state. We consider the average of all experience sampling measures measured in a condition as the outcome variable called affect. I'd like to show you a video of the conditions.
Players are asked to choose a number from the affective scale that appears during the game ranging from -2 to +2 by using their hand pedal based on their current affective state. The underwhelming scenario is plain without any sound effects or gamification elements like points and competitor. The optimal condition has a motivational music track and gamification elements like points and an optimally challenging competitor. The overwhelming condition has annoying sound effects and an unbeatable competitor.
Our manipulation check shows that the optimal, overwhelming, and underwhelming conditions were successful in eliciting significantly different levels of affect, which is necessary in order to analyze the correlations of affect with the psychophysiological variables.
We conducted repeated measures correlation analysis of the psychophysiological measurements with the affective state ground truth values and successfully identified the positive and negative correlates of affect. This is a plot of linear prediction model of affective predictor using gaze fixations, pupil dilation, and skin conductivity versus measured affect. We have individual regression lines for each participant. Our findings provide guidelines for researchers of affective high-intensity VR exergames.
The accuracy of linear model could be further investigated using larger and longer studies. Our participants were mostly in their 20s and they were mostly male, which may limit the generalizability of the results. Another potential problem is that personality traits such as competitiveness may have influenced the results. Our findings can be applied in the development of affectively adaptive exergames, and they can also be applied in non-exergaming and non-VR applications.
I'm Soumya. I'm a Marie Curie Fire and a camera researcher. Michael, Eamonn, and Christof are co-authors on the paper.
I would like to thank Dan and Crescent for their contributions to the paper. Thank you and happy exergaming!